Sejam muito bem-vindos ao ScreamCast, o podcast do Scream Festival. A gente está gravando aqui durante a edição 2022 do Festival Scream. E nesse momento eu tenho a honra de ter comigo aqui duas pessoas incríveis, a nossa atração internacional, Desiree Coleman e o Paulo Rogério. Vou pedir para eles se apresentarem, lembrando que o Scream Festival tem o apoio do Sebrae e da Rede Bahia. Então vamos entrar no assunto. Esse vai ser um podcast internacional, então eu vou conduzir esse podcast em inglês e respeito aqui a Desiree. Então vou começar a falar em inglês, mas vão aparecer legendas aí para quem está assistindo o vídeo.
ScreamCast, um oferecimento do Sebrae. Há 50 anos criando o futuro todos os dias. E Rede Bahia.
So, I'm very glad that you are here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and about you, Paulo. Paulo is my friend for some years. And first of all, I want that you introduce yourself.
Perfect.
Who is Desiree Coleman?
Awesome. Well, I'm Desiree Coleman. I would say my most important job is a mom.
Yeah.
I'm also a diversity, equity, inclusion executive. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri in the United States. I am passionate about empowering women, looking at equitable outcomes for women, thinking about how to support people of color and ensure that we are creating opportunities for marginalized individuals.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And about you, Paulo Rogério. Who is Paulo Rogério?
I'm Paulo Rogério from here, Salvador, Bahia. Welcome to
Yes.
Bahia, by the way. And I'm an author. I published a book about innovation diversity called Oportunidades Invisíveis, Invisible Opportunities.
Yes.
And also I'm co-founder of several organizations such as Vale do Dendê, which is a business incubator here in Salvador. Also
I
a
read
media
about
organization.
you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
you.
you. And also, an activist and pro inclusion and business opportunity here in Brazil. And thank you a lot, Lucas, for this invitation. So I'm really glad to be here and nice to meet you in person now.
So I'm in good company. This is awesome.
We are, of course. So, Paulo, you have a book about this point. And you say that for organizational diversity is not a cost, diversity is an investment, is an opportunity. And you made a research about that, you show the numbers.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about that? How much money companies let on the table because they don't invest in having a more diverse team?
Yes, definitely. So for a long time, the markets, understood that, diversity, social inclusion, it was a side topic, right? It's like a important conversation, but not a mainstream conversation, right? So, but right now, we finally, as society, we are understanding that diversity should be at the core of our companies because it can bring more innovation, can bring more opportunities, and also can make companies more profitable, right? So. As a Brazilian, that's for a long time, the common sense here was, okay, we don't have this problem in Brazil, have no racism, etc., etc. My first time when I went to US, I saw a different perspective for that, of that. And then this changed my mind. And nowadays, I'm doing advocacy for more inclusion here in Brazil. So in my book, Invisible Opportunities, Oportunidades Invisíveis, I pretty much researched entrepreneurs that saw on diversity an opportunity to grow their business, and they saw also markets niche that people normally don't see, right? So could be a lady in São Paulo who created an app for women, could be an indigenous guy from Bahia who created a digital platform, Afro-Brazilian group who created a travel company. So those are examples that I talked in my book.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And you applied this in very huge organizations like Wells Fargo and now in Federal Reserve. I'd like to listen about how you do this under pressure. You really do that and how you see the results. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I do realize I'm sitting in the midst of greatness. So I read the article, I think it was in the Washington Post, that talked about Dundee Valley and all the work that you were doing. And you talked about some statistics, right? And I started at a global financial services company, Fortune 50 company. And I was trying to present the business case for diversity, because people are like, well, why are we doing this? Like, I already have my clients. I don't need to focus on, other communities. And I would always say, you're leaving money on the table, right? You are leaving money on the table. And you talk about being able to solve a need in the niche community. So I would always say, like, if you look at McKinsey & Co., they said that companies in the top quartile for ethnic and cultural diversity are 33% more likely to have above average performance. And it's like, if you're a business person, who wouldn't want a 30% or 33% increase, right? So part of the work that I am doing is focusing on the representation and the composition within the organization. So I'm asking organizations to look at their top level of leadership and see if it reflects the communities that they serve. If not, right, you're not going to be able to bring that innovation because you don't have a representative view. And so part of what I have been sort of proposing is that at the highest levels of your organization, it should reflect the communities that you serve. And so we've been talking about different training programs, different leadership development programs to really build that pipeline of leaders. I also am sort of saying, in your operations, in the way that you do business, it needs to reflect the communities that you serve. So how many organizations have had faux pas and different embarrassing marketing moments because they didn't have a diverse person? So if you look at like Gucci, which created some culturally insensitive marketing campaigns, like had there just been a diverse person in the room, you would have been able to see that. And so those are the conversations that I'm having, looking at both internally how the company is run and externally how they do their work, ensuring that there's inclusion and representation.
Perfect. I think you talked about the diversity of the community, and in the United States we are all black people, black guys, black persons. In the United States, the black people represents, I think, 14% of the whole population.
Yeah.
In Brazil, we are 52%. But I think that the racial issue in the United States is in a more developed moment. You are here for 2 days. I don't know if you already have a vision about the Brazilian reality, but if you have, what do you see, what's the difference and what's the opportunity that we have, or what's the thing that you saw here that you could apply in the United States?
Yeah.
And I'll make the same question to Paulo Rogério that went to the United States, sometimes know the black movement in the United States and is a leader in Brazil. What do you see that is similar and what's very different? But this is the first place.
So today I had the opportunity to meet the Minister of Women for the state of Bahia, and it was so amazing. One of the people, I met her staff people. So one of the women that I met, she talked about the rich history specifically of Salvador and how women are in a place of leadership and how leadership is intertwined with like religion and like culture, and there's such like a pride here. I felt it the moment I got off the airport, and I'm looking around and I'm like, I see myself represented. I have found my people. And so, I definitely think the way that the African diaspora is represented here is beautiful. So then I got online and I started looking at different travel blogs. So like Travel Noir, for example, did a beautiful profile of Salvador. And I think it's like so awesome, and people need to see the great work that's happening here. Also learn about I hope I get this word, the Baianas, the women. Yeah, oh my gosh, like it is literally a part of the fabric of this community. So being able to see economic empowerment and the ecosystem that you all both are supporting is phenomenal, right? So those are lessons learned that I can take back and say, look at this great work. Look how folks are building upon history and taking that to the next level by empowering the next generation of Brazilians. And so that for me is really empowering. I would say, as I was like reading too, I saw that the racial wage gap is big here, right? And so I think, economic empowerment creates resources creates opportunities to invest in the things that matter, right? So whether that's people or causes that, are important to either of you. And so I think economic impact and the ability to have that mobility is super important. So, you know, the one thing that I'm thinking about is like, can organizations do a pay equity study and look at like how women are paid in comparison to men, and look at how people of color are paid in comparison to their white counterparts? And then could we adjust that so that there is equity? That's something we did in my organization back home, and we were able to move some salaries. So like for me, that is the thing that's like coming to mind, is something that'll help level the playing field.
Perfect. Paulo, what's your vision?
Yeah, you know, I think Brazil and United States have a lot of similarities that people sometimes don't know, especially the Americans. When they come here, they got surprised about, you know, both of our countries were built on the, you know, indigenous blood, and the Africans who were captured to come to Brazil and to United States, and then also the immigration process. It was really pretty much the same. Yeah. The difference was because you guys had a formal segregation, and you never had a formal segregation, but a cultural segregation, right? So black people were told to not go to some places, or they thought they couldn't go to some places, even when it was not written. So that's the main difference in my view. But comparing the both societies, I think we can learn a lot from the African American struggle and African American way to fight against racism. As you guys definitely should learn a lot from our way to preserve the African culture. That, you know, it's pretty much well preserved here in a way that even some Africans, I have some friends from Nigeria, Lucas, for example, they come here and say, wow, you know, even in Nigeria, this is not necessarily preserved. I'm talking about food, I'm talking about, you know, the fashion clothing, I'm talking about music and other stuff. But I think the combination of the black diaspora, it's something needed. And if you combine, you know, brothers and sisters from the United States, from, you know, other parts of the Americas and the Europe and the Africans, we definitely can reshape the global order, because the world needs what we have, right? In terms of our way to perceive the society, you know, our resources, the way that we see the world is different, right? So we enjoy more, we celebrate more. And I think these are kind of things that I'm really passionate about. And I think this combination is perfect. So that's, I think, I tell all African Americans I meet, so guys, you should promote Brazil and US. You should promote by in the United States, because once they know here, definitely we can have a better bridge. Because Brazil, because the language is kind of part of the global, you know, international society, right? So it definitely should be more connected.
I love it.
Right. And I want that you talk more about that, because you are a visionary guy, and you have this vision that the diaspora can make a connection, a business connection, that you can bring investments from Black American investors to Bahia, and bring investment from African investors, and make a connection between people from Bahia, Black people from Bahia, with the markets abroad. And you do that. It is not just an idea. You have a business, a company that does that. So I really would like to listen how it works. What have you already done? And you have very good things to tell us. It's a venture, your company, right?
Yes.
So if you can talk to us more about that, about this vision, and how you are doing that, would be perfect.
No, thank you, Lucas, for the words. And then I think the vision it's simple and complex at the same time, right? It's simple because it's pretty much, well, we have a really big buying power in the United States, just the travel movement that you mentioned, right? So people sometimes from African Americans, they go to, I don't know, China, or they go to Italy, they want to travel, right? So everybody want to travel, but why not come to a place like you're going to find people who looks like you, and then the culture is kind of similar, right? So, and then once you come for visiting, and then you're going to meet someone like Lucas who has a business here, and then you make business together. So, and then, you know, the whole ecosystem starts taking shape, right? So that's my vision. That's why you brought here Afropunk Festival. You're very familiar. So Afropunk, you know, it's a very important brand. It was already in New York, of course, but in London, Paris, when you brought the leaders of Afropunk, you said, look, man, you should be in Bahia. It's not really a matter of maybe, you should be in Bahia because here you're kind of going to connect with the bands here. You're going to make a new source of creativity for your festival. So so it's a third edition that we have at the festival here, the different model. But and also we are working with the studios, right? The streaming platform and the studios, so to promote Women King. So we promote the Women King together with the Casé Fala, our partner company, and then we are now promoting Black Panther 2. We did the Black Panther 1, yes, Wakanda Forever. So I think it is a movement that I'm very happy that's really taking place in Salvador, and leaders like Lucas and other people who are seeing those opportunities really to connect the dots, right? And my dream is that Salvador can be the Black capital of Latin America, right? To be recognized as the Black capital of Latin America. So I do whatever I can every day for that.
I love it.
Sure.
It's awesome.
So this is the ScreamCast. We are recording this during the festival. We are in 2022. Probably this podcast will be launched in 2023. And I am Lucas Reis, president of ABMP. This is Desiree Coleman. This is Paulo Rogério. And we have much more to talk. And Desiree, besides being a mother, besides being the vice president in Federal Reserve, you are also CEO at a company that's Good Multiplier. Is that the name?
How did you find that?
Yeah, Good Multiplier.
So, you did your homework.
I did it. I'd like to listen more about that. I read that you are focused in creating new leaders, and I was part of a program from the United States government to empower new leaders, and I love this. So I'd like to listen more about what you do and what's your proposal with that.
Yeah. So when you hear the word Ferguson, do you know what I mean when you say Ferguson? Do you know what I mean when I say Ferguson?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ferguson is outside of St. Louis. St. Louis is where I live. So like that's my home. So you see like CNN and you saw like all of the protests happening, and I'm looking and I'm saying, this is my city, right?
Just a moment.
Yes.
We know Ferguson, but I don't know.
Okay, let me break it down. So Ferguson, I would say, is a really rallying call. It was the beginning. It's really the first time in mass when you heard people use the term Black Lives Matter. And it happened because of the death of Michael Brown, unarmed teenager, 18, just graduated high school, killed by police. And I think everybody in my community was shocked. I grew up in St. Louis, and so my experience has been very Black and white. Like everything is divided from education to where you live to your ability to access healthcare. Everything has been divided into Black, white, and so I really think the death or murder of Michael Brown amplified that. And so I, at the time, was working in corporate America, really frustrated as I saw grassroots organizations who are doing really powerful work, and we're not getting the resources, we're not getting the funding. So I know that we share that sort of passion. And at the time I was a grant maker. And so I was writing checks, but I'm looking at who those checks are going to, and they didn't look like people like you or I. And so I was like, I kind of got to figure something out. I don't know what it is, but I got to figure something out. And so I launched a cohort and really brought my network to those individuals. And, in many ways, it was an accelerator program that brought together marketing, budgeting, finances, and really just trying to create opportunities. I ran 3 cohorts of that. And so now you're putting me on the spot because I have since sort of shifted to focus more on writing and working moms, but it was born out of a desire to see equitable outcomes, specifically in the philanthropy space and nonprofit organizations who were making a social impact. So yeah, that's really special to me.
Great.
E não podemos deixar de mencionar o grande parceiro do Scream Festival 2022, o Sebrae, que há 50 anos está ao lado de quem fez história ontem, constrói o hoje e cria o futuro todos os dias.
Paulo, for you again, Desiree, in Brazil, we are much more miscegenated than in the United States. And sometimes people say, we have a diverse team because the grandfather of that girl is black and the grandmother is indigenous. And you said that in your city you have black people and white people. It's very segregated. Paulo, in our reality, do you think that we are miscegenated people? This makes diversity easier to be implemented, or don't, because you have other kind of troubles. You are a consultant in that. You do this. You help companies to become more diverse. So this reality in Brazil makes your job easier or harder?
I think harder. Well, because in a society like you said, very mixed, miscegenated, very with the different shades of color, and because for a long time we couldn't talk about race in this country, because we were not a democracy for a long time, right? We have to address this in important, very important topic, especially in these days, right? So we're not a democracy. Thus, we couldn't talk about race, and then people didn't know about their race. They thought about color. A color of the skin, you can have thousands, right? Different shades. So because of that, for a long time, people with lighter than me, do say, I'm moreno, I'm something but not black, because even the stigma of being black, for a long time was something that people didn't want to have, right? So, on the other hand, I think being very diverse, even inside the black community, it's an asset, right? Because you have it's like we have a big lab. Brazil is like a big laboratory of everything, like shades of hair, texture of hair, right? So it's shades of color in different subtones of color. So for a makeup professional, it's a having, right? Being in Brazil, because you can test products, you can do. So I think Brazil could even be the leader for that, because when I go to the United States, I see less different shades of color or hair than I see here, right? So, but to your point, it's much harder when you have a society that's tried to sell themselves as a mixed society without problem, right? As opposed to a society like in the US, that the problem was written in the law, right? And the apartheid, the different name, but in the Jim Crows, etc., was written, and people had to fight against and go to the streets, right? As here, we know it was not written, so people say, there was no problem. Anyway, so I think it's harder, but I want to emphasize this point, very important, that Brazil could be the leader for different kind of markets, especially in talking about cosmetics and things, because the way that we are diverse, in general, as a country, you have the large Japanese communities outside Japan, largest Lebanese community outside Lebanon, and then you have the largest black population outside Africa. So, in general, but also inside the black community. So, I think I like more the word Afro-Brazilian or Afro-descendants, because I think you have to find the broader way of our roots. But of course, it's a complex conversation, right? So, but I think it's more complex than the United States.
Want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so much that you said. Number one, you talk about the beauty and breadth of the diaspora, right? So in college, they will always say the black experience is not a monolith, right? Yes. And so I speak Spanish, and the first time I went to Costa Rica, I'm looking at people that look like me, and I'm like, why? And so I get that same feeling here. And I love what you said about taking that as an asset, right? So all of the diversity y'all possess, and like, what are some ways? So you think about Fenty Beauty and Rihanna and the success, right? Because she was intentional, and she prioritized diversity in every single shade. And now you see all these companies like copycatting to follow suit. And it really just goes back to the point that you said earlier. right? Which is that diversity is actually your competitive advantage. And if you have a diverse set of people, they will help you identify challenges and market needs, right? And then you go fulfill those needs. So it really is an opportunity to be strategic, to be thoughtful, and to, quite frankly, crush your competition. But people don't see it that way. And I don't know if that's because of bias. I don't know if that's just because of long-held, ideals, but it really is a business opportunity. And that's not why I tell people you should do it. It's the right thing to do.
That's true.
Full stop, right? But I think for those who need a little bit more nudging, this idea that it creates a business opportunity is really where I start with.
Sure. I'd like to listen. What's the part of your job that you love? That you say, oh, I chose the right place to be, the right profession, the right role. And what's the part that you say, oh my God, why do I do that?
So for me, the part that I love, I always knew I was going to help people. I just didn't know how. I thought I would be a teacher. I thought I'd be a social worker. But the work I get to do is helping people, right? Because I am helping to level the playing field. I am helping to use data to analyze our systems, to analyze our practices, to analyze our policies, to say, is this working? And if it's not working, then I can say, here are 5 recommendations for how we make it better, right? And so when you use data, you show people, here are the challenges, and in order to be fair and equitable, we gotta fix them, right? So that's my favorite part. That's also my least favorite part, because a lot of people think this is a zero-sum game. So if you win, then you lose, right? If I win, you lose. And it's actually not. And so what I always like to say to people is, if whatever system we're talking about, if the systems are not working for everybody, they're not working, period, right? And so if you can use data to analyze what's working and for whom it's working, then you'll be able to say, like, okay, we have a fair and equitable system. So any social policy, name it, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, if there are different disparities, if you can detect the outcomes by race, it's not equitable, right? If you can see who's more likely to get a loan at the bank, who's more likely to have access to higher education, who's more likely to have chronic health challenges, right? And you can trace that by race, it's an inequitable process. And so having that data then allows you to have a different conversation, because we're no longer arguing, does this matter or does it not matter? We're saying the data doesn't lie, right? There's a challenge. Now, what are we going to do to fix it? So that's the part that's challenging, because not everybody's down with that. And a lot of people love the status quo because it benefits them. Right? And so when you start trying to change things, they're like, whoa. Like, why are we changing things? And it's this idea, because the system's not working. But it's working for me, but it's not working for all these people. So we got to change it.
Perfect. Happily, we are reaching the end of our podcast. And I'd like to ask you to say your final words. But Paulo Rogério, with your final words, what would you say to people like us to see themselves as an asset value? To be different is good. So what do you say like that? I think that people like us have to understand that to be different is an asset. And you are very good in saying that. So please.
No, yeah, I think for a long time we've been told that being homogeneous or follow the crowd was the thing, right? So even when we were younger, so we want to follow, the standard or the TV personality or celebrity, blah, blah, blah. But I think we are approaching a new age of society where, singularity matter, right? So, being different matter, being, understand your sexuality matter. That's why I like a lot this movement of people doing the DNA test. I did mine, and I think it's very interesting because each of us are kind of similar to someone, but also different or singular. Even if you have a brother, a cousin, somehow you're different, right? So, but my point is, diverse is an asset, and that's exactly what you say, Lucas. Should be a mantra for the markets, and not because it's only politically correct to say that, but because it's actually easy. It is an asset, because when you have a society like in Brazil, when you have different color, different shades, different text, hair texture, this should be an important a lab for the world, right? So, and the market here, sometimes we copy, that's what I like to say, we copy a lot of things from everywhere, right? So we are a new country comparing to, like, let's say, old countries like Ethiopia, for say. So we kind of copy. But sometimes, for example, we copy some things from the US, but we don't copy a very important value they have there, which is diversity, right? The value of diversity, the value of transparency, etc., etc. So I think definitely nowadays, in finally Brazil, Lucas know very well that, like, finally the market here is awakening for that, and I think the upcoming years, if you have a stable society, it'll be fantastic for us, because I used to say Brazil is 30, 40 years behind the US in this discussion about race. But, when time is going to pass, and then you're definitely going to catch up this delay, and definitely show to the world what the beauty of diversity is, and especially in Latin context that people don't know, right? So that's a very important thing. And again, if you are listening to this podcast here or watching this, if you never came to Brazil, I think you should say that, but you should come, because definitely it's something special in this place here that can teach the world about humanity, and I think you should be proud of that, Lucas.
Can I just say one thing? All that is black is cool, right? Look at your T-shirt.
Yes,
You know how many
Black Panther.
Do you know how many box office records that broke,
That's
right?
true.
And so I don't think people really, like, there is a je ne sais quoi about being black, right? It's in the way you move, in the way you talk, it's in your swag, and it's like, man, we gotta celebrate this. That's right? True. And I love what you said, be homogeneous, fit in, like, fit the standards. Like, no, be you, do you. And so I'm so excited. This has been awesome.
Perfect. Desiree, please, your last words, and I'd like to add a question or something that I'd like to listen you talk about. Lots of business leaders don't see that diversity is an investment. Some see diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility as like charity, not like business strategy and investment. And what would you say for these people that still don't understand that this is about business and not only about politically correct things and so on?
Right. I'm speaking to the camera, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
so, have you seen Hamilton? Right? Look at the success of Hamilton. Look at his shirt. Have you seen Black Panther? If you are not prioritizing diversity, you're missing out. Period. And so, that is table stakes. It is the beginning. But I will say, if you need the numbers to back it out, I have all the receipts. So, number one, Deloitte Australia said that organizations that prioritize diversity have better engagement, right? Salesforce said that organizations where people feel seen and heard and valued and respected, those employees are 4.6 times more likely to do their best work. Cloverpop did a study and found that organizations that are in diversities are outpacing their competition, and they're seeing 19% higher revenues because of diversity and innovation. So Google, ROI of diversity. And if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will, but I can tell you this, your competition is gonna eat your lunch, because companies that understand the competitive advantage of focusing on the diaspora and creating marketing strategies that are inclusive, that are representative, and that are for all people, right? Those are the companies who are gonna be getting my dollars, and I'm sure your dollars. So that's it.
Perfect. So, thank you, Desiree. Thank you, Paulo Rogério. I will start speaking Portuguese again.
Okay.
Então, esse foi o ScreamCast. A gente está gravando durante o festival. Então, esse barulho é o burburinho aqui das pessoas se relacionando. A gente está gravando na edição de 2022. Esse episódio sai em 2023. O ScreamCast tem o apoio do Sebrae e da Rede Bahia. Eu sou o Lucas Reis, presidente da WMP, e agradeço a vocês aí por ter escutado mais esse episódio. Obrigado, pessoal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. We did it!
Yay!
Oh.
ScreamCast, um oferecimento do Sebrae. Há 50 anos criando o futuro todos os dias. E Rede Bahia.